Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Move podcast, brought to you each and every day by Ventum Bikes. My road bike, my NS1, I'm completely obsessed with. Totally obsessed with my gravel bike, my GS1. Leaving for Europe tomorrow, taking the GS1. Going to hit up some... I'm just going everywhere on that bad boy. Special offer for our listeners, 10% off if you head on over to ventumracing.com/themove. That's 10% off. And also, as we have done several times per week, we're selecting a rider of the day. So if you, all you got to do, and of course we're running out of time. We only have one more day. I don't know if we'll have another rider of the day, but anyways, our rider of the day today is on this, of course, on Instagram at Columbia.Nestor, and I'll get to that in a second. He says, biking has given me the joy of rediscovering myself again at age 67. I enjoy the suffering, the pain, the inspiration, motivation, hope, and courage. I like the way I look and feel on the bike, and I enjoy the time spent riding and laughing with my fellow rider friends. Hashtag Ventum Rider of the Day. And so Nestor is a funny thing because Johan, I think he's listening, but I don't remember the total backstory, but Nestor was like a nickname we gave each other. This is no shit. This is true. And there was some guy that I think Johan grew up near or whatever, and he was from this little town near Johan called Tilt, and he would always say, "Ik ben Nestor van Tilt." I thought it was funny. No,
I don't even understand.
No. Okay,
No.
All right. Wow, that fell flat.
Another dad joke of the day, courtesy of Lance Armstrong.
Listen, I would like to blame Woody for keeping me out late last night. HR for waking me up early. No, anyways, we're talking about stage 7, which didn't disappoint, and we're going to break it all down. Mel, where'd we go?
Stage 7, from Célestin to Le Marxtin. Célestin to Le Marxtin.
Yeah, whatever. Look, you guys, gals, I should say, have been saying this for days and days. I was like, minute 14, that seems like a lot. And you're like, no, not enough. I'm like, what about 2:14? Not enough. Okay, what about 3? Just clearly not enough. Annemiek van Vleuten, just next level.
She was definitely next level today. I mean, it was such an impressive ride. It was everything that we expected, but before we knew about the illness, and then definitely she, came through that well.
Yeah, I think my text to you was, "I told you so."
I know you enjoy sending those.
I was glad we could watch on the pajama party this morning.
Yeah, and when the coverage came on, of course we were watching it on Peacock, when it came on, the race was decided. I was like, wait, what did we miss? We didn't see the move. Of course, Demi Vollering, is it Demi? How do you Demi. I keep wanting to say Demi, like Demi Lovato.
Well, it is spelled Demi.
Right.
And there was just signs for all over the road, but it's Demi.
And she just,
I think the thing was she came out fighting like right away. She could have waited a while and let some of the other selections take in place, But she did it all herself. And so by the time we even tuned in and got to see it on the TV, they were already just the two of them. So that was wild.
Epic day too. 10,000 feet of climbing.
Yep.
I mean, that is... Oof.
Yeah, and that's all within like 70-some miles, 78 miles, I believe. So that's a lot of climbing. Good stages. And I did say she was going to go early and often.
Right.
And
when I asked about her team, you guys said
doesn't need one.
She doesn't need a team. And we saw, in case in point today, she just took things in her own hands and rode away. We really, we got the clip of her at the finish line, which I think is play it first.
You're going to have this jersey. What does it mean for you?
Before I said that the yellow was for me something of the guys, and I didn't have a feeling with it. But when I saw Marianne Vos riding with it, yeah, I have to say it is a nice one. So it's beautiful extra present of this beautiful victory.
She seems off the bike. When you watch her in the race, you're like, man, this girl's tough. That seems like a different person to me.
I just saw FOMO is all I saw.
Yeah, well, that was definitely FOMO.
Yeah, like she was like, I don't care. Remember, she did say she just won the Giro a couple weeks ago. And they were like, what are your goals for the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift? And she's like, it's just another race. I'll do my best. And then Mariana has that yellow jersey, and she's like, I want that thing.
But when I see her face, I think that's a relief. You know what I mean? It's kind of like in the beginning of the race when she wasn't going the way she wanted to be going, she held her composure, and I mean, you can only imagine what it would be like going into something like that with all the pressure on you, and then to be sick and trying to just ride through each day. And I mean, at the end, it all worked out, but at the time, it takes a lot of like, professionalism, et cetera, to stay focused and still, thinking that you have a chance. And she kept it. And now all of a sudden she's got this lead. It's amazing.
Oh, and a hell of a lead that is.
Right. And we're gonna break all that down here in a second, and the race for second, and also I think we got to talk about the time cuts because she was so exceptional. She had a hand in sending 6 women home. But today's show also brought to you by Roka. Saw them all over the screen today. I want a pair of those Rokas that SD Works is rocking.
Damie, your girl Damie.
No, I want those. Are so sick looking. Rob, you listening to me? I would love a pair. The best sunglasses, the best prescription glasses out there. Super lightweight, no slip, and hand built in our hometown of Austin, Texas. I love this crew down there. Head on over to Roka, ROKA.com. Enter the code THEMOVE for 20% off. Today also brought to you by Wahoo. I love saying that. We had Corey and his crew down. Corey, who runs Speed Play for Wahoo, came over today and watched the race with us. Had a couple of their friends from Aspen. But they have a whole suite of products. They've got the Kicker Smart Trainer. They've got the Rival Sports Watch, which, of course, you see every day on this show, and the Bolt GPS computer, both of those. I set it up today. Corey brought me a special one on my road bike and a special one on my mountain bike. And of course the Speed Play pedals, which I've been using for a decade plus, as has you.
12 years on Speed Play.
Yeah, see, pedals, all the greats.
I know.
Impressive. Head on over to Wahoo, just 2 O's, WahooFitness.com.
You just started this yesterday, and
I know.
You might need to stop now. I think you've done.
You're
well.
Looking at me like, dude, once was enough. All right, that's
we have one more day.
I can make it.
I have been doing this for 4 weeks, watching bike races, talking about bike races.
You love it.
And it's been awesome.
And I got a haircut yesterday. How do I look?
Looks really good.
Thank you, sweetie.
Well, according to our Instagram Live, for you folks that missed our pajama party with Attitude. People were really commenting on Lance's hair. I know. It looks good. It does.
Hey,
very nice.
Thank you.
Then some people did say my hair was better. So.
Of course.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, openly gray.
Here.
Openly gray is what they said.
As we did touch on, 6 rider, and they were talking about this often when the stage was unfolding, because she was riding so fast that's one. But at the back of the peloton, that then another story unfolds of people that are going to miss the time cut. Unfortunately, 6 had to go home, and we had some notable DNSs and DNFs.
I mean, honestly, though, I'm surprised that more than 6 weren't outside the time limit today, because it was such a gnarly stage. And, when people were off the back on the first climb, I thought, oh my gosh, there's going to be some serious problems with the time cut. But it was impressive that only 6 people ended up getting cut. Was it?
Yeah, it was 18%, which we calculated was about 40 minutes, and it was pretty much spot on. Right. But 6 is not as much as I thought. I was a little concerned.
Yeah.
But then also a DNF today was Lorena.
Right.
Arguably the fastest woman in the peloton for a sprint finish, but she had that hard crash, which we showed yesterday. And she did start the race in the green jersey, wearing it for Marianne Vos. And she rode about an hour and pulled out. She got stitches last night in the hospital.
Wow, really?
And that's actually something I wanted to talk about. Lance, I don't know how many hard crashes you've had.
Not many.
But when you have to go to the hospital at night, I mean, that's a whole other thing. Not only do you need to recover for the next day, you finish the stage, your DS has to take you to some hospital in France that's off the side of a mountain that may be an hour and a half drive. You have to sit
in the waiting room.
Yeah. They're giving you like juice boxes. You don't recover. You don't eat. I mean, I've been in these hospitals a few more times I want to admit, but that really, I mean, that does impact your recovery overall. And she did have stitches in her arm from yesterday.
But does I mean, that all of those things are reasons to go home. But she also is looking at 2 stages, obviously today's stage and tomorrow's stage. And we know she is the fastest woman in the peloton, but those are not her stages, right?
No.
But I also wonder if it's like, she knows she's not going to win another stage. but you want to finish, right? And in the guys' race, that's a very big deal to be able to ride into Paris and to finish the tour. Like guys talk about that their whole lives. I finished one tour, right? Is that you think that's a big deal here and the reason she started?
I think it's the reason she started.
Yeah,
but I think when you have the pain and all those other things start adding up, then, it doesn't become worth it anymore.
Yeah, and she got to start lined up on the front with the polka dots, the yellow, the green. I mean, she was there at the start, but an hour out, she pulled out. And then another did not start, actually, at all, was Marlene Reusser, who did that beautiful time trial-esque stage finish the other day. But she was in the same crash, and they didn't let her start because of concussion symptoms.
Wow.
So that's something I personally, being a traumatic brain injury survivor myself, it's very difficult in cycling to monitor concussions when you have them in crashes, because our immediate reaction when you crash is get back on your bike and finish. But there's so much risk in if the potential symptoms, what's going on in your brain, what's happening, and to get back on the bike, finish your race, and then be assessed. Right. So that's still something in cycling I can't figure out. It's archaic, but happy to see that her team is putting her health first.
Right, yeah. Well, it happens a lot. I mean, this is... you can wear the helmets, and thinking back to the days that we would race and train with no helmet, but shudder to think. I
mean, I just think about it. It used to be that if you hit your head, you were definitely getting back on and going, and now there's just so much more attention to, is the helmet broken? These kinds of things. Or are we going to let them continue? So
yeah, there's so much room for growth and science in that, but maybe we do that.
There is, and as we touched on a second ago, like this, as we watch today, I mean, obviously this woman is on another level. Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll see a rerun of this show tomorrow in the yellow. I would think imagine.
So. And I mean, in your head, like as a director and stuff, you always think, okay, now you can kind of conserve a little bit and follow and, take things a little bit more cautiously. But her style of riding, I can only imagine that she's going to go out and do it again, especially when she finished looking as fresh as she did today. Right. I couldn't believe it when she came. The last 2Ks, she was smiling and waving.
Yeah. Well, if you had 3.5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you can, but still.
But it's going to, now we have this, because this, and I know I'm really critical of finishing second in stages. Doesn't matter, my public service announcements. But what does matter is the podium of the Tour de France, right? And so this race for the podium is tight. Right? I think we can safely predict that Van Vleuten's going to win the Tour. But the competition for the steps on the podium is wide open with a day like tomorrow. Tomorrow's is epic, more epic than today. You have an actual uphill finish. Super planche de Belfi.
And I mean, it just seems like who recovers well tonight. I mean, they were all riding. Newman Doman was riding great towards the end there and bringing back Vollering and stuff. She looked good, and they're not that far apart.
No, I think there's a good race for that second and third spot. Damie was the only one that was able to go with Vleuti for a bit on the stage, and then we had our Lamborghini.
It was in between. Yeah,
was for a while just solo, and then the group of I sound like Johan now. The group of Nia Doma.
But I think what's interesting, it shows kind of what happens when you're on your own and putting the effort out there by yourself versus a group, right? Because the other ones were behind her working together, and Longo Borghini had made it and then was in between and working on her own and wasting energy. So I think that's going to be kind of what's going to be interesting tomorrow is, Vollering was by herself,
right?
Versus the girls who are behind. Can she recover? Right. And do the girls who are working together, who aren't that far apart, are they able to, move ahead of Vollering, who we thought that she'd have her teammate up there too, which also changes things. I mean, we thought that Newman Pasio would be there too. And I mean, I was really surprised that she wasn't in that group. I mean, that was going to be the one spot I thought, okay, here's a team maybe could do something if she wasn't feeling her best.
Yeah, and I haven't heard quite what happened to Ashley Mulman Paso, but we thought she would be at least be in the Nia Doma group, if not initiating early attacks to help her teammate Damie. And Damie went. What?
Kind of hard to initiate the early attack when Van Vleuten just starts from the beginning.
That's true.
I would love to have seen it. I mean,
oh my God, me too.
Yeah. I was following on Twitter. Women's cycling be better. But Damie Vollering, though, was who they said was the GC rider, the favorite. We showed her and her dog the other day. She's a Dutch rider, but she lives in Switzerland. So she's good on these long mountain passes. She came from a speed skating background.
Wow.
And like we said, she's won LBL, et cetera. And she was a florist before. Speed
You were
skater
busting
and
out some
florist.
knowledge today.
I know.
What else is over there in your bag of tricks?
Also, she's the queen of the mountains. And she was very emotional. And it was surprising that she was the queen of the mountains, but she was the official queen of the mountains. It's not Van Vleuten still.
By 1 point.
By 1 point.
Yep, 29-28. So.
And I don't think she was crying because she was so excited to be the queen of the mountains. I think there was a lot of emotion regarding she just lost the tour, and this was her goal for the year.
Right,
So,
right. Before we continue on, today's show also brought to you by Dry Farm Wines. It's been a hot minute since we talked about Dry Farm Wines. As you know, or you may or may not know, winemaking is a very, very old process. It's been around for 8,000 years. However, most wines are made with a lot of processing, a lot of additives. Dry Farm Wines comes along and makes organic and biodynamic wines. These are really cool. We did a package for the Tour of Italy. So we have an Italian box, we got a French box, and we have a Spanish box later in the year. But this is super cool. Sugar-free, lower alcohol, organically, biodynamically grown, as I said, additive-free. Most wines have up to 76 additives in them. Friendly to keto and paleo. And by the way, saves check this out, 1.4 billion gallons of water. That is insanity. Anyways, for the next 30 orders, you're going to receive a complimentary WeDo tote bag. Head on over to dryfarmwines.com/WeDo. And I got a box of it for you, Allie.
thank you. You haven't got me a wedding present yet.
I just did.
Or was it those attitude pajamas?
Yeah.
Sorry.
What else stands out for today? I think we have, I love this picture, and I think it's, of course, if you're viewing the show, you'll see it, but this photo of the team car, just to, we see the cars and sometimes they show the directors, but look at everything that's going on in here. And of course the Vela View are there. This was not around when we raced, but they can really track not just obviously they're communicating with the riders, but really whether it's bends in the road or wind and all these things they keep close attention to.
Yeah, so this was sent from our friend that we've been discussing throughout this week. When I need to know questions immediately, she's in the team car texting me back. Sure, not on the radio at the same time, but this is Joanne Kizanowski, one of the directors for Human Powered Health, Kiwi Olympian. And so that brings us back to, she wrote me last night and was like, look, we got 2 service courses.
Right. On this discussion of whether or not they could afford a second car in the race, which...
Yeah. She's like, they have a service course in Girona, one in Belgium, fleet of trucks, cars, vans, etc. And then she said the word on the street is the rules are going to change for the cars.
Well, that's because we called it.
Yep.
The Move said it yesterday.
Yeah.
That rule will change.
Yeah. She said, pretty sure it's going to change. Yeah. And I asked her how the race was today in the caravan, because I can't imagine with only one car and riders everywhere. I mean, you got to be, I've been dropped a lot, so I know when your director goes, bye, eat. Do you have enough food? You're like, I'm hungry.
Good luck.
Hope you make time cut.
See you at the finish, Allie.
And she said it was
Hope there's some hot water left.
Yeah. She said it was like a triathlon out there, just riders everywhere. Oh. So I thought that was a pretty funny commentary.
Oh, boy. And there was also, speaking of rules, there was and we I didn't catch this yesterday in the sprint finish. Prosecco was relegated, and when you go back and now I see it, you watch it, you're like, whoa, watch this move.
She did really bust a move there over to the side.
I mean, surely she sees that there's.
She hits that wheel too.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Okay.
So we got a lot of comments on our channels yesterday asking why we didn't talk about it, and I did look it up while we were recording, because that's what I do, need to get intel. But the communique, there was no relegation and no one technically was protesting it because Voss had clearly won. No crash happened. So protests weren't occurring until later that night. So it was this morning. The judges,
I'm surprised the rider that got her front wheel touched didn't protest.
I think she just knew she wasn't going to podium at that point. Right. Like, I don't know. Anyway, 30, but she got relegated to the finishing time of that pack, which is 39th place. She finished 5th on the stage, relegated 39th, didn't lose any time, and obviously didn't change really much overall. And luckily, no one crashed.
Luckily.
But that is not a safe sprint. Lance, did you ever sprint like that?
No, I never. I didn't. I hated field sprints. I I would get as far away from those things as possible. And back in our day, they didn't have the 3K rule. They had eventually they had the 1K rule. I mean, you talk about nerves. Just get me to 1K to go so I can get out of the way. And the sprinters want that. Sprinters don't want GC guys in their way, and GC guys don't want sprinters in their way. And I mean, but
yeah,
same goes for both pelotons.
I had a kind of a quick throwback here just on our race for second place, I guess, at this point, right? We already talked about Damie. And in her ear, you love this, Lance, that we get to hear the directors in the radio.
I love it. That has to be here to stay.
I love it as well. And in the ear of Damie today, we heard Anna Vanderbregen, which I failed to mention her yesterday, because I'd written too much of her Palomares out. But Anna Vanderbregen was our world champion. She retired. She's now a director at SD Works. And I think arguably if she was still racing, she would be the one to combat Vleuten, Annemiek.
Wow.
I think she would. So she's a gold medalist, world champion, won all 3 Ardennes in 1 week.
But it's so impressive
7
for her
times
to have
Flesh
retired
Malone.
at the top of her game, I feel like.
Yeah,
and now
she won
she's doing
Worlds.
something that she's amazing at too.
Won Worlds and jumped in the team car of the same team she raced for. So her in the ear of Damie, and she knows how Annemiek would race. And so I really enjoyed hearing some of her feedback. Also won the Giro 3 times. Anyway, she's a ultimate badass, right?
Yeah.
So super cool that she's one of those directors. But if anyone knows how to be Annemiek, it's her. And so Damie has her, and hopefully Ashley can recover tomorrow to make it a bike race. But anyway.
Once again, saw huge crowds. Like so cool. Like
Loved
the
them.
crowds at the finish. And we saw a tweet yesterday that Velo News put up, and this just confirms it, right? They said, here at Velo News, we're averaging more readers per day this week than we were during all of May when the men's Tour of Italy was going on, which, by the way, is the second biggest bike race in the world.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That is a key indicator of just how important and popular the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift is this year.
Oh, man. It's
Dude,
amazing. I
That's
know.
legit.
I saw
haven't
that from
seen that, but I love it.
Yeah, Betsy Welsh, she's my dear friend at Velo News, and she's just like, if you write it, they will come. You show it, they will come.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just showing how powerful this story is. Now that I didn't put this on the notes, but I have a question
it's a
for you guys.
surprise.
Yeah, surprise,
Oh,
Mari
gosh.
and Lance. No, I'm just looking at. I had to watch Annemiek climb a lot today. You know, there's a lot of coverage. This is great, and you get to watch different people's climbing styles. So Annemiek, seeing when Damie was with her, Damie looks a little more like a Dumoulin type of a climber, steady, can't surge. Annemiek seems just like a lot of out of the saddle. Mari's coming from a TT background, trying to stick with climbers. What would be your approach? And then Lance, what was your climbing style?
Ooh, I
Okay, you go first. Yeah, you got it. You got this. You used to climb. You used to ride bikes.
Obviously, I always rode a super high cadence, which when we started, really leaning into that, people were like, wow. And because we were used to the generations before would mash big gears, and my biggest competition, Jan, would push these huge gears. So you would see us together. He's just like grinding this huge
I love
low
Jan.
cadence. Everybody loves Jan. I love Jan. And then I would be spinning at 100 RPMs, and people are like, wow. And then I also stood up a lot. I often would get out of the saddle for whatever, and it was just. It wasn't on purpose. But people always commented like, "Why is he standing?" Like if you go back and watch Alpe d'Huez 01, I mean, I'm standing up like half the climb, which is rare.
I saw Annemiek seem like she was standing up a lot while she was
She
climbing.
was standing a lot too. Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm definitely like a time trial kind of rider. So I like steady, but I do think that it's good to mix it up a bit. Not as much. I wouldn't be able to mix it up as much as Lance did, but like back and forth just to kind of change your position up a little bit while you're climbing, not necessarily to accelerate, but to use some different muscles and mix it up on long climbs like that. But I do think that the higher cadence kind of revolutionized everything, and you just see it more and more now. And the gearing that they're all riding is much smaller than we would have ever even imagined. So it's cool to watch and seeing where things are headed.
Well, Marianne Martin the other day told us she won the Tour de France with 42:19.
Pretty sure that's all I
Honestly,
need
like,
with
I
my cadence.
can't-
You've seen my cadence.
I can't believe getting up those climbs anymore because I wasn't even riding a 42, but a 39:23 up some of those things, and I'm like, how could I have done that? Now with my
Sports
compact
change.
gearing.
They would shame you. Back in the day, if you showed up with a 24 or 25 on the back, people would see that and be like, "You're a loser." Like you would get shamed for riding Or if you showed up with a skin suit on.
Yeah.
Back then, they're like, what, excuse me? Today's not a time trial. What are you wearing a skin suit for? You look like a triathlete.
You don't need that many gears. It's just a time trial. What do
You wonder
get?
why I mashed gears so much when I started riding. My dad's like, you don't need a little ring, Al. Just turn a bigger gear.
Yeah, well, now
He's
they have
like-
one bike.
Yeah,
So for
that's
you.
true.
It's all coming around.
Speaking of climbs, can we look at tomorrow, Colton?
Oh, Mari, don't you want to race tomorrow? He's so fun.
I'm happy just watching it.
123 kilometers, so just call that 76, 77 miles. Green jersey competition, which before the climbs, that's
Boss.
over.
It's
That's
over.
over.
Boss to
The
boss.
boss got that locked up. We're gonna have a competition, or not, I should say, on the polka dot jersey, but a Cat 2, a Cat 1, and then the epic finish up Planche de Belfi. Excuse me, the
Super
planche.
So does that mean they go up the gravel?
They go up the gravel. Oh, they did that this year in the men's tour. Remember that? That is
Yeah.
so steep.
It's very, very steep at the end. Incredibly steep at the end.
That's not even grab. That's just
Right.
horrific.
Yeah. And so the average gradient, 8.7%, is a little deceiving because it gets incredibly hard at the end. But I don't know. Like, I don't want to, whatever. I mean, Annemiek van Vleuten's the best rider in the race, clearly.
I mean, we'll
But
probably
could she
see some
I
people
don't
try to
know,
go for a
let's-
break in the beginning.
Yeah, let's,
so they have
let's
some
folks
teammates
sitting
up
at
the road.
home, like, let us have a little
fun.
No, that FOMO. No, Marianne put that. No, I don't think so. She goes for it.
Wow.
Early and often again, I think we might see a similar stage today. That's my prediction.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of fatigue
Unfortunately.
out there.
What is her relationship with Voss, speaking of?
Oh, so they both race for the Dutch national team,
Yeah.
and they have to compete against each other. They go back and forth who wins nationals. Usually Voss does, and Voss has lost to her by a couple seconds. Obviously, they're not on the same team. I think there's mutual respect.
But off the bike.
I don't think they're BFF.
Okay, got it. Not going to go on any vacations anytime soon?
No.
No rosé lunches?
No, I don't think so. That's my guess.
Oh, good.
But yeah, so just once again, the reminder on our We Do segment on Zwift.
Oh, yeah. How are we doing?
We are doing amazing. This Michael Painter is leading the A group with 14 wins. I think that might be more than you've ever won in your life at this
Probably.
point. I have no idea.
It depends who you ask.
Oh, God.
We love Zwift for being the title sponsor of the
Yes.
Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Just an amazing company. Great innovation for when Lance has to train inside because we're here in Aspen. It's gorgeous out now, but I'm going to check out as soon as it gets below like 50, maybe
Yeah, absolutely.
60.
Absolutely.
So anyway, yep, you can sign up for the We Do segment. Just go on Zwift, do a little warm up, 4.1 mile loop on the Champs-Élysées, of course. As you can see on our virtual background, I see a green screen. I think you guys see Paris. But only 2 more days. So July 31st, and deadline is midnight Mountain Time. But we've got some Australian riders are winning. I mean, it's a great.
That's because it's cold there now.
Yeah. And people are still trying to chase Mari's record on there. So, but way to go, Tammy. Keep it up.
All right, we got a few questions and comments here from our listeners. Matt from Corrales, New Mexico. HR, where is Corrales? HR is from Hobbs, New Mexico. Is that near? Never mind, huh?
Albuquerque.
Oh, outside Albuquerque. Okay. He says, absolutely loving the, this is amazing. TDFFAZ. That means Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift this
Also
year.
correct.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
And you're a very excitable co-host. I have a question about Urska Zygaert. I know she is a very strong rider, but every day she rides at the back of the peloton. Is there any reason for this? She has to know she's using so much energy staying there with all the crazy accelerations during the race. Thanks, and keep the old man on edge with your enthusiasm. That's me, the old man.
And Mari's the excitable one.
I think he's just
I'm
too
not.
used. I think he's just too used to George's laid back style. That's Matt from Corrales. What?
Okay.
Yeah. Why?
I'm excitable? That's a,
No.
okay. Oh,
Why is she at the back
Urska.
all the time?
Well, I think she started cycling relatively. I mean, like a lot of these women in the peloton. So she's Slovenian. Her and Tati are engaged. He's currently moving them into their new house this week. And he
Cue
was
that. Cue that cute music. Colton.
no, it's adorable. Yeah, so she's a professional cyclist for Team Bike Exchange. She's Slovenian, and she's their time trial champion. But this is 2021.
So she's freaked out.
What?
I mean, she's a little paranoid about being in the bunch.
Well, I did a tweet, and I know there'll be some backlash for this, but somebody said, "Oh, they remind us of you," because I like to float the back a lot.
Oh.
You know, I like to either be off the front or off the back, and I think it's a little fear factor. But she's obviously incredibly gifted. Tati has definitely said she's one of the world's best climbers. And we watched her today. She did great. Kasha kind of was yelling at her for not pulling through. But I'm like, dude, she's 30 minutes back. You're second overall. Right. She doesn't need to pull through. Right. So I think it's a little fear factor. I did respond to somebody on Twitter, said drafting is cheating. I mean, why draft? Like, why not? I mean, just, I'm sorry. Don't follow me, kids. He gives good advice, and that's not good advice. But I think as she gets more comfortable in the peloton, we're going to see her really excel. She's a good climber. She trains with
the best in the world. One of the best.
Yeah. And, she's 23 years old. So I think it's fear and experience.
Okay. All right. And then Steve McMahon.
Or she could be like you and doesn't like people. There's that.
I saw when I was walking over, there was a car outside and the license plate, and I almost took a picture of it. It says, "Go away." That was their license plate. I was like, I love that.
Yeah. You're like, please, can I just put a bumper sticker on?
So Steve says, I discovered the Move podcast by chance 2 weeks ago. Steve, where have you been?
Oh, hey, bro.
I mean, come on. This is the biggest podcast in cycling. Anyways, we appreciate that you discovered it. He said, I hadn't followed cycling since Lance retired the second time. Also, update, Steve, you missed a few things. It's been a rocky road. This show has completely rekindled my love of the sport. Thank you so much for doing such an entertaining and informative show. And what has surprised me the most, I like Allie and Mari on the show better than George and JB.
Oh my goodness.
and watching women's cycling for the first time has been a real treat. I can't wait to dust off the bike and get out there with my 9-year-old and my 12-year-old daughters, Steve McMahon says.
Aww. That is so awesome.
Burn,
and you know
JB,
what?
Burn note. JB's right here. Nobody can see him.
I'm not hurt. The girls are killing it.
As a burn notice was
But
served.
I think the really cool part of that is that he wants to get out there and have his daughters start to race their bikes or just even ride their bikes and get out there. And that's kind of what this is all about. It's about like getting cycling and showing them how exciting it is, and women out there doing something really special, and that they have the opportunity to go the Tour de France now. It's very cool.
Dan says to us also, he says, I've noted on, and this is all according to Strava, that Marianne Vos has ridden 2,800 miles this year. Sepp Kuss, on the other hand, has ridden 13,142 miles, again, all per Strava. Is the training that much different from men's to women's? I found that interesting. Now, I want y'all to answer this, but I just want to add one little quick caveat here. Not every rider puts every training ride on Strava. If I were back in the prime and Strava was a thing, I'd put most of my training rides on Strava. Leading up to the tour, there is no way, no how.
I don't think you would want your information out there because you want to keep everything as close to your chest as you can and not let people know, okay, this is her time going up this or that, or you want to keep them guessing. And the less information you can give, the better. It is interesting to me that so many of them put all their data out there.
And the races too. I mean, that's how we see these. Yeah. I mean, we're not guessing that they did 10,000 feet today. We're looking at Van Vleuten's Strava file that immediately posts up once her bike computer syncs with her phone or some
Which
Wi-Fi.
is very cool for us all to see.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. So Annemiek so far at least has 12,000-ish miles posted on Strava this year. Okay. I'm at over 7,000. So, I mean, she's definitely riding, but back to the efficiency, which we talked about, though, and then just for the listeners, I think it's just something that always grates on me, though, is that you don't have to train like a pro. And then some of these pros, like Lizzie Dagman, and Marianne Martin was talking about it as well, but are famous for not riding that much and still being mother effing fast. Right. Because, some people really enjoy riding their bike all day, which we heard in Annemiek's interview. She goes, I'm older, she does well with this endurance. She likes to ride long. But I don't know how you were as how you trained, but I like to ride my bike a lot. Other riders,
I was less and more intensity.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'd rather ride long and
yeah, me too.
those intense sessions were. Ugh.
Yeah, so I think it just depends, though. So you don't need to do all those miles all the time. And also, like you said, good point. Some teams don't let riders post their data.
Right. So it's not entirely accurate. Now she probably does post every ride.
I think
she's got 12,000 miles this year. Sepp Kuss, one of the best men in the world, has 13,000 miles. That's basically the same number.
Andy has the Tour de France in that profile, so that's a lot of miles.
Good. God, you're smart. That is a great point.
Yeah.
Send your questions to TheMove@wedo.team. And we got one more day to go. I mean, this has been amazing. I got to say, and Steve did say that he prefers y'all and that this has been more exciting than he expected. I'm with him. This has been amazing.
Wait, you prefer me over George?
No, that was. Listen, George. He's
Sorry,
he's a very
George.
sensitive guy. I don't want to. I'm gonna be Switzerland on that one. But
Well, we wish he was here.
yeah. Well, anyways, tomorrow's the big finale, so we'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.